But I think we've gone far beyond, as we've talked today about cost savings, and the areas I really find fascinating is when we get into creating new markets by segmenting our spend into setting up SME startups. And we're getting some of that in the public sector now, which is fantastic. And we shouldn't decry that. And I think there's a trend from those in the private sector, and I'll hold my hand up, I was one of them, who thought public sector, it's down there somewhere. Actually, some of the things I'm seeing in the public sector are leading edge in terms of setting up new enterprises and so on and so forth. Not just in the UK, by the way. So there's that area that many of us would never have dreamed this profession would have been involved in when we started out, as I did 30 years ago. There's that area, the social value side, which I'm going to come back to, and winning business and managing risk. Insurance companies, the last data we had, they see supply chain as the single biggest risk into setting the company's premium. So why is it not that we're sat with analysts assessing when the company is having its report, the general report to the analysts, why is it not supply chain people are there? I had the misfortune of being there for my last company's annual general meeting when there was a hard question asked on supply chains. But actually I was pleased that question was asked, and it was hard to answer. The more we see of that, the better. The analysts are starting to say, hang on a minute, what is this all about? We're going to assess that company's risk on supply chain as well as on its value to the shareholders, etc., and to the market. So I could, much of this is being covered today, so I really want to just skim through that and move on to the bulk of what I wanted to say. This one has been totally discussed today. I'll never go last again. Artificial intelligence. I think the only point I'd make there, the only tweak on this is this is a slide that I think if we think through what this is going to do to our profession, a lot of what we do is down to analytics, as I said earlier, and we all pride ourselves, and that's our comfort area, on analysing. We're the top analysers, we're the analysts. We can always give the hard answers that are true and not in black and white, just like financial institute can, or like accountants can. But the impact of this, if you think beyond just robots and data and big data, as was said earlier, into the ability to take sense of that and make something of it. That's what we do. We make source decisions based on lots and lots of incoming data. Some of it's soft, but can it be transferred into hard data? So a robot could do it. I don't have the answers, but I suspect what's going to happen is this, that we're going to see, and it concerns us at the Institute, because historically our membership is quite at the starter and the mid-level rather than the high level. You're going to start to see this taking away of this, what I call process activities, which was touched on earlier, far more leadership roles. Now the question there would be, what does that mean in essence? Is good supply chain management, is good strategic sourcing actually a role that you depart from a company altogether? And you have it as a separate entity with a profit centre and value add it's offering of its own, because there's core strengths in there that are highly marketable, far beyond working for one company. So, and I forgot to say, the other paradigm of the Institute is that it's a kindergarten. And actually it probably was 20 years ago. But our membership now is becoming far more high level, senior level, and I'll come back to this in a minute. And it's not just that starter activity. So, supply chain at the heart of everything. This is a slide I'm going to shoot through because you've seen it already. Except, if you use Amazon like I do, it's getting quite scary when they're starting to predict not just what I'm going to look at on the screen, but actually the next thing I hear is they're actually going to deliver it for me, even though I haven't even looked at it, which is a bit scary. And what's the returns rate going to be? Or will you actually think, oh my goodness, I better take this? So I can see that moving the next way, and that's supply chain management. 30 minutes and stuff's going to be, they're claiming, with you. Now, how true that is, I don't know, but this is all supply chain management. And it comes within our remit, which I'll come on to in a minute, about what it is we do, who we are, and what we call ourselves. So, what I want to talk about here is the profession as we know it, or did know it, and how it's changing. And again, a lot of this is being covered today. What you see in the left-hand corner is very much what I'd call the low capital intensive, the industries that don't really need a strong procurement activity, just the basics. And it doesn't matter, unless you're very mature, that you would want beyond that. But there's all these other things going on that I talked about. And I've seen these in action from complex acquisitions. We get involved in that. We should do, because mostly or often when an acquisition is announced, it's one of the good reasons for it, they say, is major cost savings, because I bought another company and we've just saved ourselves a ton of money. And the purchasing guy's looking at that and thinking, hang on a minute, I wasn't involved in that. How's he worked that out? So, you know, a real issue, and one that we have to get an awareness of. And I know that from being on the hard end of getting involved in an acquisition and being told I'm going to make major savings, and I thought there's no way. So we have to get that awareness in that area. So what I'm trying to show here in CIPS is we're working on with a user group on building a definition of what this is. And it's not that easy. But I think the fundamental here for me is, and I'll come on to what we call ourselves in a minute, but what is it we do? What is it we add value in? And we've talked a lot today about these different values of where we should be involved and where we shouldn't.